the biggest problem, I think, Robin, is that people who go through a traumatic childhood, people who come from broken homes and broken lives, think that that's all that's meant for them, because subconsciously that's the kind of thing that they are attuned to, that's the kind of thing that they're attracted to. And it takes a really, really strong person, and it takes a really, really strong-willed person to be like, okay, you know what? I don't want my life to go in the same way and in the only direction that I've seen it go. I want something different for myself. But that's the only way that you can make a change. That's the only way that you can, this intergenerational trauma is just going to keep going until someone breaks out of the cycle.
Welcome to Let's Talk Love. I'm Robin Ducharme, and today we're joined by Ruby Dahl. Ruby, thank you for being with us. I
Hi,
recognize your
Robin.
background from all of your Instagram posts and your videos and your podcast.
I know. Hi, Robin. It's so good to be here. And yeah, I mean, this is my study. This is where I record everything and where I work and where I do everything. So I don't have another room, unfortunately. So.
No, I love it. This is where I do everything too. This is where all the magic happens in my office at home. So we're both in the same boat here. Ruby, can you please tell our community at Real Love Ready about yourself, who you are, and what you've been up to in the last, you've been busy. You've been a very busy girl.
Absolutely. I am, to begin with, an author. I have self-published 5 books of poetry, prose, and bite-sized self-help. I'm a self-love content creator, so I talk about all things healing and self-love, and I'm an advocate for mental health, so I write pieces about that as well. I talk about love and relationships, and most of my pieces take the form of quotes, so they're like short form, they're prose. And I have recently released a very special book. It's called The Path to Self-Love, and it's
I'm gonna pull that
published by
up.
Penguin Random House. Oh my God, you have it!
Of course I have it. I read it. I read it all week. And it was excellent.
Did you like it?
And it
Did
was
it? Was
published by Random House. So that's fantastic.
it was a dream come true. I have wanted to be published by them for as long as I can remember. It's 10-year-old Ruby's dream come true. And this book has 2 years of my life have gone into this book, just from the conception to writing it to signing with Penguin and then working on the whole project. And so much of my hard work and just everything that I've learned over the years has gone into it. And so it's just such a special book. It's all about self-love and healing, and it's a step forward from everything that I share on my social media. It goes so much deeper into everything that I advocate for. So yeah, it's just such a special book.
I thought it was really special, Ruby. And you bring out a lot of things that that I've been working on in my own life and reflecting on. So I'm excited to talk to you about it.
I'm excited to talk to you as well, and I can't wait to just get into it and talk all things self-love.
So let's start there because I know on this is what you do. You're helping people understand or work through and grow our self-love. And I think that that's one thing you do talk about quite a bit throughout the whole book is we as a culture, as a society, let's just say on Instagram, you've got, on social media, you've got a million followers plus. And I think there's just this idea that self-love is all about all the nice things, all like having bubble baths and going for long walks and journaling. Journaling's okay. But talk to us about self-love. What's your definition of self-love?
So in the book, in particular, the definition of self-love, it has 3 separate components. The first is that it steers away from this me mindset. So it's not all
Right.
about me. It takes into consideration your relationships, which in today's day and age, we focus so much on, if I want to practice self-love, it should be all about me, what I want to do, where I want to go, what would make me feel better. And so the definition of self-love that I propose, the definition that is the most impactful is, a self-love that takes your relationships and the people around you into consideration. It values those relationships, because the only way that you can grow is if, your environment is thriving and your, safe space and your support group is healthy and good for you. So that's one aspect of self-love. Another aspect is essentially the main aspect is that you live with an intention to take care of yourself. So the intention is there essentially. And the last thing is that self-love isn't unconditional. Okay, so it's not feeling unconditional love towards yourself all the time. The reason being for this is because it's impossible to love anybody unconditionally. We say that we feel it. I think the only time that you can ever truly perhaps get an insight to unconditional love is if you're a parent. I think as a parent, as someone who loves their children, could definitely feel that form of unconditional love. But I feel like in general, we don't experience unconditional love with our friends, with our parents, with our partners, because to unconditionally love someone would be to love them without having any expectations from
Mm-hmm.
them. So
Mm-hmm.
they could love you, you could love them and they could let you down again and again and again, and you would still love them. That's what unconditional love would imply. But that's not the case. Because your love for them would wither with time. You would feel, hurt, you'd be in pain, the relationship would suffer, essentially. And so you cannot, in the same way, love yourself unconditionally, because that would be saying that I love myself and I'm going to live with the intention to take care of myself, but I have no expectations for myself. How does that work? How do you love yourself without expectations? That means letting yourself down, but still loving yourself. That's not true. When we let ourselves down, we do feel bad. We do feel guilty. When, you say you're on a diet, or you are working on your health and suddenly you have that cheat meal, you feel bad. You're like, oh no, my diet is getting messed up, or my whatever it is. Whenever we do something that is at odds with us wanting to practice self care or self love, we do feel let down. So, unconditional love is not something that self love incorporates. And so, self love is great, right? You're living with the intention to take care of yourself, want to better your life. But the thing is, a lot of people see this as meaning only self care practices. And
Right.
that's why, yeah, absolutely. And that's why I distinguish between that's why I distinguish between easy self love and tough self love.
Yes, that okay, so let's talk about that because I really loved this distinction that you give in the book around easy versus tough self-love. I think the easy self-love is we all know what's all over social media, right? But we're
Yeah.
not talking about the tough self-love, which is so important. That's where your your real healing is going to take place, is
Yeah.
practicing tough self-love. So can you please explain what you mean by tough self-love?
Absolutely. Essentially, tough self love is doing the hard work. So, with easy self love, we see it online, experience people indulging in it. When we think of self love, easy self love instantly comes to mind. The bubble baths, the runs in the park, the walks with your dog, the coffee, dates by yourself, the catch up with your friends, everything that you associate with as feel good activities, activities that will improve your mental, physical, and emotional health, make you feel better, make you feel happier in the moment, are done with the intention to improve your life, and you're aware that they will be improving your life. That's all easy self-love. And so we think that if we do just these things, we will experience and feel that love and that satisfaction, that contentment. But when we don't feel it, when we say, okay, so I'm doing everything that Janet from Instagram is doing, she has this reel that she posts of her day. I followed exactly what she does in her day. I went for a 5 a.m. run, and then I got a coffee from my favorite cafe, and then I met up with my friend, and then I went home and I decluttered my workspace and my room, and I did everything. But why do I still feel empty? Because you're not doing
Right.
the tough self love, because you're not doing the tough stuff. The tough stuff is having the difficult conversations about certain feelings that you're having. So, say that you feel really, really low. Ask yourself, why am I feeling low? Tough self love is admitting that you have, a problem. Perhaps it's a drinking problem. Perhaps it's, addiction to social media, whatever it is. Ask yourself, admit that you've got a problem. Perhaps go to an AA meeting. That is tough self love. Get therapy. That is tough self love. Have honest conversations with your friends or your controlling mother, who keeps telling you what to do. Have those conversations. That is tough self-love, because
Yes.
what you're
It's because
doing.
it's going to challenge you. And it's not easy. And but it's so necessary for caring and loving for yourself on the deepest level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Something that I was just watching, and I cannot remember her name right now, but this was something that just like it was a reel on Instagram. And she made this like awesome point. She said, people come to me all the time for self-love, for like,
Yeah.
how do I just exactly what we're just talking about, Ruby. And she said, okay, well, tell me about that relationship you're in. And the person's saying, well, it's really bad. Like it's not a healthy relationship. And she's like, well, you're here to spend half an hour with me, and I'm giving you some tools, but actually you're in the muck. You're in that mess 24/7 with this in this very bad relationship. So tell
Yeah.
me, like, you could like you just mentioned, Ruby, you could be, eating your green shakes and working out every day, and your physical body, you're taking care of it, you're journaling. Okay, you're doing all the easy self-love, that stuff that makes you feel good on a physical level. But what are you doing for your heart? And what are you doing with the environment, the relationship that you're in? That needs to be like, that's the tough stuff that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I've just thought of a comparison, and it's like when you are renovating an old house, a really, really old house, you're renovating it. You do all the outside work, you do the paint work and the brick work, and you replace the roof, and you get a new door, and take care of the garden outside and the driveway and everything. But from the inside, the house still looks the same. It's still old and shabby, and there's mold, and it's damp. Well, you can do everything on the outside, but if on the inside you don't work on the house, it's eventually going to crumble anyway. It's still going to be old on the inside, new on the outside. So when you want to practice self-love, it's the same ideology in that you can do all the external stuff, you can do all the runs and everything. And I advocate for it because I myself, one of the biggest things for me, a walk, 10K walk every single day. Like I need to do 10,000 steps every day. Okay. I need to do 10,000 steps every day. I need to go to the gym a few times a week. It's not been looking too great recently. I'm not going to lie. However, that's as part of my self-care practice. But
Right.
the only reason I can feel good about those things now is because I've been doing the internal work. I've been doing the trauma work. I've been journaling. I've been asking myself the difficult questions. I have been sitting with my trauma and trying to see how I can move on from the past or take it forward with me in a way that doesn't hurt as much as it used to. And the reason I wanted to write this book and the reason why I talk so much about self love is because it's such a hot and trending topic that no one seems to understand.
I agree with you. I fully agree with you. I had a conversation with my boyfriend as well as a good friend this week around um, being in a very bad relationship. My last marriage was very toxic, and I was in a place of like a lot of blame, self-blame and shame for a long time around it, because I'm like, how the hell did that happen? How did I fall into this? Right. And then you're like in that, and that's all necessary. Okay. All I had to go through that period of shame and blame and all of that rumination in order to be on the side I'm at now. And one of the things, talking about just tough self-love, around when I decided to end my marriage, that was freaking the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, because we went through therapy, we do all the things, and and it's like making that decision was like one of the most loving things that I could do for myself.
Yeah,
It was a loving thing that
absolutely.
I could do for my family. So like we are misunderstanding what love is as well,
Yeah.
right? Love is not always about all of the positive unconditional words that we use, right? Around, you could throw all the love out there, but if you're in a toxic situation, the most loving thing that you can do is either try to fix it, try to figure out if there is a way you can, or walk away, and that's love.
That's love. Absolutely.
Love
Yeah.
is love can be many things, and sometimes it's very hard, right? So I love that
Yeah.
you really point that out. You really, really talk about it, Ruby.
Yeah. Love is hard. And I think people
Mhm.
do get that. People do understand when, say, for instance, I'm following this particular influencer who's promoting all these self-care things, and I do it, and I do the affirmations, and I do everything, and I don't feel the love. I know it's hard. I'm like, why is it that I don't feel it? It's so hard for me to feel love. Why am I not, why am I still battling with these emotions? Why do I still have low self-esteem? Why do I still, feel bad about myself after every broken relationship? Like, what's going on? It's so hard. But the thing is, I get stuck on that. I get stuck on the fact that it's hard and I continue to do the external work instead of thinking perhaps it's hard because I am not doing the tough stuff. I'm not doing the stuff that's truly going to change my life. One form of self love after, say, having a breakup is deleting all their photos and deleting them off social media and distancing yourself. Another form of self love is sitting down and giving yourself closure and sitting down and asking yourself what went wrong.
Right.
What went wrong? How could I, things happened. There was two parties in the situation. He did whatever wrong that he was to do, but what could I have done better? How can I improve myself? How can I make sure that I don't go for these kind of people in the future? Do I have a knack for picking a certain personality type? Is this because of my past, you know, um, adolescent years or my childhood years? What is it? What is it that's going? That's tough self-love, but that is self-love. Working on yourself, trying to improve your life for the better by doing the stuff that doesn't make you feel good, essentially.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, you say there is this misconception around healing internally is like healing externally. Process and you reach an endpoint. Right. You talk about how it's like people are misunderstanding healing as being like a wound. Like, it's going to heal and you might have a little bit of a scar, but you're good to go. That's not the way it works with healing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your journey more? Because you share a lot about yourself in the book,
Yeah,
which I
I
I think
do.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you're now you're happily married,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you actually go a lot about you talk a lot about heartbreak in your book.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah,
you talk to us
absolutely.
about how you ended up like what work did you do, the internal, the hard love work that you did to like you can reflect now and be like, this is what I did, and this is how the result is I'm in a beautiful relationship I'm very happy in.
Yeah. The Okay, so I see my husband as a manifestation of the person that I always wanted in my life. So when I was younger, I was very unhappy as a child. I wasn't going through a very healthy childhood upbringing. And so I always pictured myself and I envisioned for myself the life that I wanted. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be, an author. I wanted to write books, but mostly I wanted healthy love in my life. I wanted healthy love, whether it was at the time, it wasn't romantic. At the time I was a child, I wanted it to be, healthy love around me in the form of my relationships, my dad, whatever it was. But when I met my husband, I realized that I had manifested the healthiest love for myself. And the way that I reached him, the way that I got to him is I was in a lot of pain. I was in my early 20s. I was in a lot of pain. And the first thing that I wanted to do, the first thing that I looked towards was social media. Okay. I looked around and I was like, okay, I need to heal from this. I need to practice self love and I need to move on, essentially. And so I looked at all these different things that people were doing. I started, the gym. I started eating healthy because I wanted to feel better about myself physically. I started chanting affirmations. I started doing all these external self care things.
Mhm.
And I still found myself in pain. I still found myself hurting. I still found myself thinking, why do I still keep coming across, unattached people or people who are not aligned with what I want from my life or people that, are displaying the same kind of idea of love that I've had? What is going on? And then I sat down with myself and I was like, okay, what is love? What does love actually mean to me? Okay, what is love? And through reflecting and through really diving deep down into my past, I realized that I had a toxic perception of love altogether. And I write about it in the book as well. My perception of love was, um, it was tainted. It was, I saw love was synonymous with pain, essentially. So if it was a struggle, it was love. If it was toxic, if it was love. If it was painful, it was love. I learned,
You were surrounded with that, right, Ruby? Because
yeah,
you lost your mom. Your mom
yeah,
died at a very young age,
yeah, yeah,
and your dad fell into alcoholism and was so. And you brought in by your aunt, right? Your family, and it
yeah,
was just you were surrounded by all of this pain that was not being addressed, was not being healed. So it doesn't surprise me that all that modeling and like living in it, right?
yeah.
And there's really no end in sight, right? Because you're thinking, well, if you see the adults in your life and the community around you not dealing in like using tough love to get beyond, and then how do you learn that yourself?
Absolutely. And for me, it was mostly through modeling, essentially, modeling behavior that I saw. So when I met Ivneet, I was still healing. I wasn't at a point, Ivneet, my husband, when I met Ivneet, my husband, I was still healing. So I wasn't at the point where I hadn't even realized what tough self-love was at that point. Okay. I was still
Right.
healing, I was still moving on. And it was through the relationship that I learned and I reflected because of the fact that there was all this pent up emotion and all my past trauma that I would always project on our relationship. Right? So he was the guy who is, he was sorted, he was motivated, he was dedicated, but also he came from a background that wasn't as messed up as mine was. He, came from a normal, touch with stable family. He was stable compared to me, okay,
Yes,
mentally and
he was
emotionally.
secure. We would say that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was secure. And so every time I would, and I had problems, I had trauma, I had baggage. And so every time I would essentially act out in our relationship or act in a way that it indicated there's problems there, there's underlying issues there. Instead of being, confrontational, instead of being like to me, you are being, a horrible person or a horrible girlfriend, he would just sit down with me and he's like, what's going on? What's going on? Everything's okay. Is there something that's bothering you? Talk to me. And it was through these conversations with him that I realized that I need to start having these conversations with myself as well. And I need to figure out what it is that I am so bothered about. Here I am in a healthy relationship. I've never had a healthy relationship. I've never been used to a healthy
Right.
relationship. And I'm in a
Right.
healthy relationship and I am out to destroy it. I'm out to mess with it because healthy isn't love to me. Healthy is healthy. It's normal, but it's not pain. It's not toxic. It's not suffering.
And
And
he's
so,
mirroring that back to you, Ruby. I just love this because he was able to be that mirror rather than taking it in being defensive. You
yeah,
were able to see these patterns.
these patterns, yeah, absolutely. And it was through having these conversations with him that I understood the importance of having a safe space and having a safe, a safe spot to go to, which is why I talk so much about support circles and having a group of people who can help you when you're healing and when you're practicing self love. But B, that's when I understood that all this time I have been working on myself externally. All this time I have been doing, all the external stuff. I've been writing books. I've been healing through poetry, all of that. But I'm not dealing with the deep stuff within, and I will sabotage my relationship. I will sabotage myself, my chance at a happy life, if I don't work on these internal problems. And so that's for me, the biggest thing was that if I don't work on myself, I will lose the most healthiest relationship in my life. And that's when I sat down with myself and I reflected on my past and I understood my concept of love and how it was toxic and how that's when I really like I would sit down and I'd reflect and I'd be like, okay, this is what I've done, this is what's happened. So, and that's when I unlearned all the toxic things I had known about love and accepted healthy, honest, love into my life. And when that happened, I slowly started working on the other areas in my life. All the tough stuff. I started. Me and my brother are really close. My older brother. We have these deep conversations all the time. We've gone through the same thing, me and
Mhm.
him, and we've gone through everything together. And so he is my best friend. I talk to him. We'd uncover our past trauma, kind of reflect on how we want to move on from it, what we want to, and it was so healing, Robin. It was so healing, and it just helped me uncover how important it is to do the tough work so that you can form a strong foundation and a strong basis for yourself. And yeah, the biggest thing in me learning about love and manifesting and staying with it, because any healthy person could have come, any person could have come, but if they didn't stay and mirror back what was going on, if they didn't, you know, show me that they are here and there's something, I need to work on. And they're here with me regardless. Like he told me very clearly that, look, I love you, right? And if you're going to continue being like this, I'm still going to be there. But I need you to work on yourself for yourself, essentially. And so, yeah, the more that I worked on myself, the more that I realized every part of my life was just slowly healing. It was slowly getting better. And touch wood, like I am, I now tell myself that I've got the life that I dreamt of as a child. And as a
Oh,
teenager, the life that I dreamt of. What did I dream of? I dreamed of being happy. I just dreamed of being happy and content.
yeah.
And that is the life I dreamt of. I dreamt of being, just waking up and not feeling pain in my chest, not feeling emptiness, not feeling a dark cloud over my head of what's going to happen with my dad and I've lost my mom. Like I just wanted to be happy without that lingering pain. And I am.
My goodness. I just think that is just such it's so great. It's a testament to doing how important it is to do the work so that you can be in that place. Like it's not,
Yeah.
and I just love this reminder, Ruby, that you're talking about like, okay, I was going to the gym, I was doing all the things, but then it wasn't
Yeah.
until I was in my dynamic with Invit, right? That you're like, oh,
Sorry, his name's a bit of a tongue twister.
sorry, what I'm saying it wrong.
It's neat.
That he was able to help you heal the relationship dynamics that
Yes.
were sabotaging. And I think a lot of people will relate to this.
Yeah.
You know
And
how,
yeah.
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 If
Yeah.
we're not raised in an environment where we're modeled those really healthy dynamics, where it's like I'm learning as I go here. But when you're telling the story, I was reminded of when I was married in my first marriage. And when I was growing up, my parents argued a lot, and there was a lot of yelling and screaming and slamming
Yeah.
doors. And my brothers and I would just like kind of like be quiet, leave the room, and kind of just like what's the word? Weary the storm? No,
Yeah. Wear out the
wear the
storm.
storm,
Yeah.
something like that until
Yeah.
the storm would pass. And so this is how we learned about relational dynamics. Like if you're really
Yeah.
unhappy, you yell and scream and carry on, and then actually later on you don't talk about it either. Like those
Yeah.
were like two big,
There's,
very strong dynamics in my household. And so when I was first married and first dating my husband, this is what happened. Like get mad or get whatever
yeah.
and be raise my voice and yell, right? And I
Yeah.
remember him saying it was very early on, like in our relationship, and he's like, I don't know what's happening here, but no, I don't operate
Yeah.
like this. I don't talk like this. Like this is not okay with me. Like
Yeah.
he was very strong in his like absolutely not. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Like that it was just like a clear boundary,
Yeah.
but also communicated like this is not how I'm going to do this with you.
Yeah.
And from then on, we did not do that. So it comes from a place of almost innocence sometimes our behaviors, but we want to learn from that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you know what, Robin? I completely agree because if it was the same. So when you see that kind of behavior modeled in your childhood, when you see your parents behave in that way, you think that's normal. You think that's how relationships are. That's how
Mhm.
love works. But it takes a strong partner. I'm sorry to hear that you've gone through divorce and so on. But it takes someone who hasn't come from the same background as you to tell you that no, this is not how relationships are. This is not how love works. And this is not how a healthy relationship works, for you to understand, okay, so all this time I thought that's what it is, but it isn't. And then you're forced to reevaluate, and you're forced to relearn everything. You're forced to relearn everything. You try and understand love and relationships in a completely different way, because we are the product of our experiences. We're the product of everything that we've gone through, everything that we've seen, we've witnessed. And that was the biggest thing for me to, you know, not only learn about love in a different way and understand it in a different way, but also understand that it's not just about love, it's about everything in my life. It's about the fact that, you
Right.
know, if my perception of love is like this, my perception of happiness must be tainted, my perception of friendships, everything that, it must all be affected in some way, because I've not had a normal upbringing. I've not had um, I've not had the kind of experiences that I assume that, most children have, or most people who come from a household with two loving parents would experience. And so the biggest problem, I think, Robin, is that people who go through a traumatic childhood, people who come from broken homes and broken lives, think that that's all that's meant for them, because subconsciously that's the kind of thing that they are attuned to, that's the kind of thing that they're attracted to. And it takes a really, really strong person, and it takes a really, really strong willed person to be like, okay, you know what? I don't want my life to go in the same way and in the only direction that I've seen it go. I want something different for myself. But that's the only way that you can make a change. That's the only way that you can, this intergenerational trauma is just going to keep going until someone breaks out of the cycle, essentially.
That's right.
you
That,
know. And I
yeah.
think, yeah, I think that's why self-love is so hard, even though it appears to be so easy to millennials and Gen Z and everyone, like, oh, it's so easy. The generation above us, so my parents' generation, didn't even know what self-love is.
There
Okay,
was no talk about self-love.
there was no talk about self-love, let alone telling your kids you love them. That barely ever happened, or barely ever, you didn't really
And
hear
now
it.
there's an abundance of, like you said, like our social media is consumed by the concept, but it's very misunderstood.
Absolutely, and it's so misunderstood that it's it's almost to the point of alienating you, almost to the point of you becoming hyper independent and misunderstood, because people have started to think that self-love is so independent and so individual that until I don't, and there's a chapter in the book on this as well, which focuses on relationships and love and so on. There's this particular thing where it says, until I don't love me, I can't love you.
And that is such a bunch of BS. Okay, Ruby, you just shared your story about yourself and how that's a great example of how you went into your relationship with your husband and you had these behaviors and patterns that were absolutely prevalent. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until that relationship with this man that you were able to work through this idea that you have to be fully healed in order to be in a good, healthy relationship is it's just a lie and it's just not true because we heal in relationship. Our friendships help us heal. Our families can help us heal. Our partners hopefully can help us heal. Our children. These are all like your life is just a never-ending journey of healing.
That I completely agree with you, Robin, and I think that's why people have this perception because of that misconstrued perception of healing, which is comparable to external. It's not comparable to external healing, but people think you will be healed and then you can find love. You will be healed and then you will be successful, and you will be healed and then you'll be happy. And it's like, no,
No.
you're always healing. You're always goddamn healing. You're healing from one thing or another. You
Yeah.
could be healing from a heartbreak, but you could also be healing from your very first failure. You could be healing from the time, you know, you got bullied at school or something. You could still be healing from that. It could still be affecting your self-esteem. You never reach a point where you have healed. You just reach softer, lighter places in your life where that experience doesn't hurt you as much anymore, but it goes forward with you. It always goes forward with you.
Yes, like you talk about in your book, you talk about how um your body issues, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
I absolutely have body weight issues. I think there are many women and men and non-gender people that have body weight issues. But you talk about like, the source and how
Yeah.
you didn't think that you had, you're a little girl, like you're like
Yeah.
going through puberty and your
Yeah.
aunt, like you said, you and
Yeah.
your cousin like wore the same
Yeah.
outfits
Yeah.
because you were like
Yeah.
sisters
Absolutely.
and you were so proud of the outfit that you were wearing and your aunt was like you can't wear that, like your cousin can because she's got the body for it, but you
Yeah.
can't, like this is not appropriate, like you're chubby, you're like, she said it, she's trying to be loving as she's saying it, but it's absolutely not loving, right?
Oh,
It's
no,
the
not at
opposite
all.
and it's so
Yeah.
incredibly hurtful, and that carried forward. I can see
Yeah.
it, right? We can all, I've got examples of that too, and it's
Yeah.
just, yeah.
It's hurtful, and I think, I mean, till this day, you know, when I wear an Indian outfit and my blouse is too short, I worry about my tummy. I worry about my arms. I'm more comfortable in baggy clothes than I am in tight jeans and tight clothes. And I think that's one of the things that stays with you forever when you are made to feel a certain way at such a young age. And I think those primal years, those years are so important that anyone dealing with kids should just be so careful with what they say to them. And
Yes.
it's even more terrible for kids who go through such a traumatic upbringing, who go through trauma, who experience loss and grief and go through such horrible things, because that person, that child, not only has to grow up and go through all the other experiences that kids their age are going through, but now they have all this stuff to unpack when they get older, all this baggage, all this,
Right.
you
And
know?
Ruby, you also tell the story about your brother, and he's trying to help you, but it was like
Yeah,
the opposite effect, right? He's like, okay, well,
absolutely.
let's go. I'm going to help you lose the weight that
Yeah,
you're being told you have to, like your body's
yeah,
not right.
yeah.
So he's like, let's go. We'll jog around the field, or he's going to ride his bike, and you're going to run behind him. And he's like trying to be your support, but it really is just
Absolutely.
reinforcing that your body is not right, and you need in order to be
Those
accepted.
experiences stay with you. Like
Yeah.
there's so many experiences I've had in my childhood, but
Yeah.
that's what stays with me. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like that's what stays with me. Those experiences, we laugh about it now because I was 7, 8. He's only 2 years older than me. So he was no older than me to know what's going on, to know, the extent of it.
He's in the same boat thinking that.
No, he's trying to figure it out, but he's a problem solver. So he's like, okay, if
Yeah.
people are saying this to you, I, as your older brother, am going to help you. But neither of us know what's going on. And he's, some days he would join me, like he would run with me on the field. He'd be like, I'm going to run too. And he's like skinny little, thin little boy. And I'm trying to run with him. And, we laugh about it now, but I'm like, that really traumatized me. Like that really affected me because I know that you wanted to help. And I know that you didn't know any better because you were a child yourself. But to think that I needed to change to make me feel like I needed to change, it stayed with me forever because then I always felt like I need to change and I need to be a better version of myself to be loved. So I need to, if this person doesn't like me, okay, I need to change. I need to make myself better. What can I do? And I would seek this affirmation and validation from people so much in my teenage and adolescent years that it was only when my this is something recent, right? My husband says this to me, okay, and he says I'm not a team player. He says it about himself, okay. He's not a team player, okay.
Yeah.
And the reason for this, and he's made me like this as well, where when I first met him, I was such a people pleaser. Okay, I was such a, oh my God, I'll do this, I'll do this. This person said this about me. I feel so bad. How could he feel this way? And I would tell my husband, then boyfriend, and I would be like, I need to go the extra mile. He'd just be like, why are you so concerned? He'd be like, look at yourself, focus on yourself, be happy in yourself.
Mm.
You can never please others to the point, like no one's, he said, you can't please everyone. You can't please everyone and you can't live your life in a way where other people's validation is going to keep fueling your self-worth and your self-esteem. People will always have something to say. One person in a
Yeah.
room filled with 50 people is going to be unhappy with you. At least one person, maybe 10, maybe 20, who knows?
Yes.
You know? And so if you live your life with this perception that I need to make everyone happy, only then can I be happy, or I need everyone's validation. Everyone in the room needs to say, Ruby, you look pretty in order for me to feel pretty. No, right? Like I need to live for myself. And so that's when I realized that self-love, it comes from within. It's very, very important to come from within. It's accentuated and it flourishes when you have a safe space and a support circle who's there for you, who listens to you, who nourishes these uplifting thoughts that you're having about yourself. But it completely dwindles if you just live with this perception that I need other people's affirmation, I need other people's validation. So now I'm this person where if an environment is depleting for me, I will leave. It's that simple. It doesn't matter if it's a friend's function. It doesn't matter if it's a party. It doesn't matter if it's any of that. Me and my husband went to a wedding the other day. Old me, 5 years, 6 years old ago me, previous me. If I went to a wedding, I would make sure that I stayed there till the end. Indian weddings, not just okay, that was the wedding, but that was function number 4 that I had gone to.
Wow. Yes. Yes. They go and go and go. Yep.
So Indian weddings are not only week long, 2 week long, but also the functions are all day, like all day, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day. So I was at this wedding from I think it was 10 a.m. and it was now touching 5 p.m. and there was no sight of it being over. And I looked at my husband and he goes, let's go. And I was like, yeah, but there's so many guests here. He goes, who cares? He goes, who gives a shit? He goes, let's get out of here. And he was
Right.
like, we've paid out, we've paid our visit. We've done what we needed to. It's like, let's leave. And I was like, but we're not team players. He goes, we don't need to be team players. We just need to focus on ourselves and get out of it.
Great. Wow. I really like that example. My boyfriend was telling me a story of how he
Yeah.
went to a birthday party and same thing. He had a great time and it was time
Yeah.
to go. Maybe it was just a
Right.
gathering, doesn't matter. But his example was just that. He said it was around I think 9:30. And he said to his buddy, like, hey, I'm gonna go now. And his buddy was
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? Like, it's so early. Like, give me a break. You have to stay. Like, we can all relate to this happening,
Yeah.
right? And he was like, no, I'm gonna go. And his buddy's like, why? Why are you leaving? And he's like, because I want to.
I want
And
to.
that was it. He
Exactly.
just walked out the door. Like, who cares? But
That's
that
it.
is a perfect example of just honoring like honoring yourself enough to be like, I'm good. I'm done. I mean,
I'm
there's a
done.
lot of ways that we can apply that. I really like that. Okay, so in your book, I love the fact that you talk about how the importance of community, the importance of
Yeah,
having good, nourishing, healthy relationships of people around you, and how important that is for love, for self-love.
yeah.
So how in your life did that translate from did you used to have unhealthy relationships that you ended some friendships, or I would just love to hear like how you
Absolutely. I told my husband
did
the other
this.
day that I'm probably not going to have any friends like by the time I'm in my 40s because because um I don't know if I can swear or not, but I don't have space for crap anymore. Like I don't have space in my life for people
No.
who are not bringing me the kind of energy that I need. And so a huge part of the self-love work, Robin, was in my early 20s, in my teenage years, I had like a thriving social life. I had all these friends for my community, all these girls, even in high school, lots of friends. But when I reflected on it and when I saw, I always sought, especially in high school, friendships with girls who were prettier than me, girls who weren't very nice to others, but I always
Mhm.
wanted to be a part of this group because I wanted to be a part of something. And when those friends that I made complimented me or said you look pretty, I would be so like I'd be so happy and I'd be so enthralled that I just keep following them as their little minion. And so I attached myself to friendships and people who validated me, people whose validation I seeked, and those people didn't really I sought, and those people didn't really treat me very well.
Mhm.
So I had friendships where it was like, I don't know how to explain it. So when you have a toxic partner who treats you badly 90% of the time, but 10% of the time they're really nice, and so you stay because you hold on for the
10%.
10%. And that's how most of my friendships were. That's how most of my friendships were because, and it wasn't their fault. It wasn't that they're bad people. It's because I was seeking those kind of people in my life. Like they could be, to me, they were not great. Okay. They could be great to others, but to me, they didn't treat me very well. And that was because that was the kind of personality subconsciously I looked for. I looked for a challenge. I looked for validation. I looked for pain in love.
Mm,
I looked for pain
mm.
in friendship. I looked for a struggle. And so the
Wow.
older that I got, the more I realized that I need to stop looking for these kind of friendships. And so I slowly cut out my friends that had caused me pain, were, horrible to me. I've mentioned in this book where there was one friend who was very, very horrible to me in my early 20s. And so I completely cut her out while I was healing because I realized that one reason why I had such low self-esteem is because she kept affirming the same beliefs that I had formed as a child. She kept making me feel bad about myself. And I held on to her. It wasn't her fault.
Ashley. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. I held on to her because she was filling that void in my heart that
Right.
was from when I was younger. She was feeding me the same, you know,
You
the
felt
same,
familiar.
yeah, she felt familiar. And so when I realized what I was doing and when I realized what I deserved, I stepped away. I stepped away from her. Over time, I made more friendships. Over time, I got to know new people. But right now, I can honestly count. I probably have like two, three really close friends. But even those, I will meet once every couple of months. I will talk to here and there. For me, my safest space is literally my family. So my relationship with my dad has always been a work in progress. But over the years, it's gotten a lot stronger. It's gotten a lot better. We talk about stuff. I'm the person that he goes to when he needs advice, when he needs, someone, I call him every day. We talk every day. My brother is my best friend. I talk to him every single day. We share everything. My cousin, the same one that I've grown up with, who I used to wear matching clothes with, she's my best friend. My husband. There's so many people in my life who have been there for me in my tough times and my good times. And, family really is, I feel like it could be the strongest thing around you if you work on those relationships. We all go through stuff in our relationships, especially our familial relationships. We go through stuff with our parents, we go through stuff with our extended family. Some of them are worth saving, some of them aren't. How do you decide that? You try and work on them. And for me, I didn't want to, like I wanted to work on my relationship with my dad. I wanted to work on my relationship with the people who are closest to me. And as that relationship worked out, as it got better and better, and as we became closer, I understood that it's all about trying to surround yourself with people who are good for you, who take care of you, who love you, but people who've been there with you throughout it all, who understand your struggle, you know, who know where you've come from, who you've become. And I've reached this point where I just don't have space for drama, for negative energy, for toxicity, for
Definitely not.
narcissism.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe like, you know, I feel like you have waves in your life. When you're a teenager, you have friends. In your 20s, you have friends. In your 30s, you probably get to know new people. And so I'm ready for that new wave. I'm ready for that new wave of friendships and people I'm ready to get to know. Right now, I'm happy with my close and, you know, close-knit group of, you know, a couple of friends and family. And if I'm destined to meet new people who share my vibe and are aligned with who I am right now, not who I was 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but now I'm ready for it. I'm ready for
It'll
it.
it'll happen, Ruby. I mean, I'm in my mid 40s, and
Yeah.
I'm so incredibly lucky to have a group of friends that I've been best friends with since grade 10.
Yeah, I think
And
that's
but
amazing.
I have a very close family. I've absolutely
Yeah.
broken up with friends over
Yeah.
the years, and the grieving is very real. It's like breaking up with a long-term partner, or right, somebody
Yeah.
that you were so close to, but that was necessary for my own well-being and
Yeah.
theirs too, right? So it's all part of it. It's all part of self-love. It's not always
Absolutely.
easy. That's I think the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
But I've really
Self-love is
I've
hard. You have to do it. You have to make
yeah.
those tough decisions. Cutting relationships is a part of practicing self-love. Cutting off relationships. It's
Yes, it sure is. Life is full of so many so much pain, but also
yeah.
so much goodness. And I was talking to a friend about this just this week. I said, I understand that life is really hard, but I want it to be okay. We got like maybe 30% hard and 70% joy. So let's just like keep the balance more towards the joy. Well,
I actually love that.
I'm so enjoyed our talk today, Ruby, and I hope that everybody picks up a copy of your book. It is
Yay.
really, really well done. The Path to Self-Love.
Thank you.
And I learned a lot, and I love the reflection because there's a lot in here. You leave a lot of room. There's lines for us to journal, and for us to do a lot of self-reflection. It's really important, right? That you're just
Absolutely.
taking everything that, you know, the gifts that you're giving and the reminders you're giving in your book, that people apply that in our own lives and go from there. So thank you very much, Ruby.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robin. I had a great time speaking to you today. And yeah, I think it's so wonderful to have these conversations and to reflect on self-love and to know that it's not easy, but it is doable. And it just brings you so much joy when you do practice it. And
It
so
does.
yeah, I just yeah,
You can create a joyful life because of it. So I'm
absolutely.
going to close our chat with a blessing because I do that
Yeah.
every podcast, and it's really with your words. We use self-love as a significant tool that we can use in our healing journey to improve the quality of our lives
Very
and
much.
relationships, to achieve long-lasting happiness, and maybe choose self-love as an intention to nourish our lives, encouraging us to set healthy boundaries, which we didn't really talk about, but we did. It allows us to thrive in our relationships and gives us the courage to conquer our daily challenges. So, and hopefully create a lot more joy in our lives.
Love that. That's
So
amazing.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ruby doll.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you so much for listening. Visit realloveready.com to continue learning with us. Please rate and review this podcast. Your feedback helps us get you the tools and guidance you need to form more loving relationships and create positive change in your life. We at Real Love Ready acknowledge and express gratitude for the Coast Salish people, the stewards of the land on which we work and play, and encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge and express gratitude for those that have stewarded and continue to steward the land that you live on as well. Many blessings and much love.